Let me see.
Put these out.
Yeah, I got it.
Put these out for everybody. So here's a copy of the
The agenda?
Have anything else?
That's it.
That's it?
Jake, you need, in your, Linda.
Jake, nice meeting you.
Yeah, three of us, because there's only five. Cindy and John. So the other person okay, so we need, are we got three. Cindy said John said he could not make it. Although I got a call from Cindy last night. And she said she had just loaded and she was running late, she'd be right here. And I called her back and I'm like, I didn't, I got her voicemail.
You got your chance. Okay.
I think we can get going.
I'm not used to this.
All right, hello everybody and welcome. This is the meeting of the Granada Salsa Council Planning and Land Use Management Committee. I'm going to start off with a roll call. First, Jerry Askey is here. Eric Mansker here. Cindy Wu Friedman should be coming, but absent right now. John Salidos is excused, and Maria Fisk is here. Okay. First item up is public comment on any items that are not on the agenda. So if you have, does anybody have public comment on non-agendized items? Yes, Mr. Kuzma.
I have questions. You can choose to answer them now or you can answer them later. The first question is I'd like to know why last week's meeting was canceled. Second, I'd like to know what time it was canceled. And third, I'd like to know why the cancellation notice wasn't put up onto the website or an email sent out to the stakeholders that the meeting was canceled. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And this is comment period, so we cannot engage in discussion on the comments.
Right. You can reply briefly to something if you want, or you can respond later. I don't care. I just wanted to ask the questions.
Okay. Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Our first item up is the proposal for Chatsworth and Salsa, the Los Angeles People Street program. Many of you were here before, but I see a few of you weren't. But there's a proposal to look at a program that the mayor's put out to turn streets that are unused into public spaces. So the idea was floated about looking at what we can do with the corner at Chatsworth and Salsa and the right-hand turn. We have two people here I want to give special time to speak to. One is Linda Williamson, who has proposed the project. The other is Jake Barunian behind you, who's the owner of the property there and benefactor of the Veterans Memorial Park. So with that, Linda, do you want to introduce, just a brief introduction of the project again and then where we're currently at?
Yeah, a brief introduction. So this is a program sponsored by Mayor Eric Garcetti, Los Angeles Department of Transportation, and City of Los Angeles to convert what they're phrasing as redundant or underused roadways into pedestrian space. And so the right turn lane at Chatsworth and Salsa is what is considered a redundant turn lane because you can turn right at the diagonal or it's legal to turn right at the light. So contacted LADOT and asked them about that area. They described it as ideal for one of these projects. And so I've been letting people know about the proposal and trying to gain support. I support it because I think it's not only pro-business in that it brings more of the sort of foot traffic that we've been seeing on food truck nights to the area on a daily basis, not just once a week. It potentially can enhance foot traffic because the program requires that the area not just be blocked off to traffic, but also have what they call programming, which are public events. That's part of the application requirement. And the programming can consist of things like street fairs or farmers markets or free classes offered by the community. The mandate is that everything in the plaza be free of charge, with the exception, of course, if the farmers market, of course, they would be allowed to charge for what they're selling. But any kind of community events have to be free of charge. You can't block it and charge admission to get into the area. And that's the super brief version of what the program is.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for Linda? Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
Take a seat up here. Cindy Friedman has arrived. I guess you got my message.
I get the message.
Oh,
I have a question. I remember you were having some problems with the application. Where's that process at? Sponsorship or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. There's necessary components. There's, you need to establish that there's community support, that there's business support, and that there is a community partner. The community partner offers financial support for the project, takes care of, so there's two components of the financial part of this. One is the initial outlay for the furniture that you would need to have in the space. You can't have it just be a totally empty space. It needs to be welcoming to the public, and as such, it would require tables, chairs, and umbrellas to make it a practical, usable space, not just a blank piece of road. And so there's the initial cost outlay for those. My guesstimate based on, I know people have been asking for specifics, my guesstimate based on that, based on the kit of parts for plazas that they provide at the website for this program, is $25,000 initial outlay, because for getting the specific types of heavy duty tables, chairs, and benches that you need for, like, you can't just go to Osh and buy a patio set, you know. And then the second piece would be the longer term piece of maintenance, like trash pickup, like daily maintenance, things like that.
But what about the outreach to the business community?
Oh, yeah, the outreach to the business community. Well, obviously, I'm really glad that Mr. Perinian is here. His participation and involvement is really important, and his opinion is really important because he owns the building that fronts it. I've been going around and talking to businesses, and at this point, I have 14 signed letters of support from local businesses. I can provide you with a list of those, but they're all businesses with the exception of one, all are businesses that are on Chatsworth in between Salsa and Yarmouth. So they would be in the area most impacted by this, on that block closest to where the proposal would be. The one that I'm not including in that number is the Southern California Mobile Food Vendors Association, the Food Truck Association. They're very supportive of this too.
I have a few questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're done. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I just wanted to hear from the business owner who would be most impacted by it. I
Absolutely.
think his contribution is vitally important.
Yeah.
Maria, do you want to?
Yeah, let me
Jake
just
speaks?
ask a few questions, because I
Sure.
kind of want to lay the groundwork. I've done some research on this, Linda, that I've asked you to do in the past, and give us some, more specifics with, the costs and, exactly what you're proposing, plaza, parklets, bicycle, routes, the cost, who's going to maintain that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you was, did you go to the business owners directly that would be impacted? That means Jake, that means people right there across the street, that means the businesses. And I think, Jake finally has realized that at the outset, I think that would probably been the appropriate thing to do is to go to Jake initially. And this is something I asked you from the very start, to do something like that. So Jake is here tonight, and he would like to share with us some things going. Have you talked to the Rotary Club or the BID? Because, you know, they had a huge outlay of money and finances in the development of Chatsworth Street. So have you talked to those organizations?
I've tried multiple times to email, telephone, and in person through John Ciccarelli to contact Brian Miller of the BID for about 2 months and received no reply whatsoever.
I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah, so I did my best there. And with Rotary, I spoke with the 2 Rotary members I'm acquainted with personally, Carl Melnick and Ray Pollack. And because Mr. Brunian and I are not personally acquainted, I mentioned to them that this was something that was being considered, as I also mentioned it at the broader neighborhood council meeting a couple days after we began this process. And Andy, the owner of the Menchie's franchise, was present that night at that meeting too, and so I know he was aware of it. And so I understood that, you know, the communication was going to Mr. Pruning and through Rotary members who were aware of the proposal.
I've got a quick question. You said you reached out to, did you reach out to Brian or just John?
Brian Miller was the person who I emailed about 6 times and then left voicemails for
Did you ask
about
him
3
when
times. And then when
the
I was
meeting
having,
was?
I'm sorry?
Did you ask him when the meeting was, or ask him to send you an agenda for the meeting?
No, at that, you know, I have to admit that at that point in time, I wasn't really familiar with the operating procedures of BID. And so all I did was I went to the BID website and it said contact us. And so I started emailing and saying, hi, I would like to speak to you about this. Please contact me. And when the emails and the phone calls went unanswered, I went to John Ciccarelli and I said, are you acquainted with Brian Miller? Could you please convey to him that I'm trying to get in touch with him? He said, yes, I will. None of that had any result at all. So I can show you my emails. I really made an effort.
I'm glad that you made the effort, you know, so I'm glad you did clarify, but I think the most important person, you know, who's directly impacted would have been, you know, Jake, the owner, not necessarily the franchisee person, but, you know, the owner of the property. He owns that whole triangle, that whole shopping center corner there, and he's had a lot to do with the Veterans Triangle as well. So he would have been the most important person, you know, to contact Linda. I think, you know, that you should start with him first. The other thing is, are you considering a parklet or a plaza? What did you have in mind for that one?
Yeah, plaza is the
plaza, okay.
type of program under the People Street program has 3 components, the 3 options: plaza, parklet, and bicycle crawl. And plaza is the one that would be applicable to that space.
Did you ever get a hold of DOT in respect to their former study about the right-hand turn lane? Because they did a study many years ago when that project was being constructed, you know, when the triangle was being remodeled. There was a study done by DOT at that time. Did you ever ask them for the results of that study? Because that was done.
Well, my understanding was that there was the end result of that study was that Metro had objections because of buses turning right at that intersection would be impacted by the change. And so I emailed my contact there, Karina Macias, with that specific question, because at the previous plum meeting, Richard Fisk brought up that very same issue. And I forwarded the question. I said, I went to a plum meeting last night. This question was raised, and can you contact Metro? She emailed Metro. She contacted Metro and emailed me their response. They said their official response was that Metro has no objection to this if there's a buffer zone maintained adjacent to the triangle.
Yeah, just wanted some clarification on that, because I know that came up with
Mr. Kuzman, you had a question?
Well, 2 things. The first is regard to gathering business owners' positions. I've talked to some business owners on Chatsworth Street, and what's rather interesting, although the food truck night brings a lot of people into the area, by having the triangle there, it would bring people during the day, during the weekends to events when the businesses are actually open during the day. So the businesses would benefit, the businesses that are open during the day would benefit if the park is used for daytime functions. Right now, we just have the trucks at night. Most of the businesses are closed for the most part. So they don't always, benefit from that crowd of people there. The second thing that I want to bring up is community input. As all of you know, I created one of those nextdoor.com neighborhoods for us. As a part of that, when a post is made, it goes out to surrounding nextdoor.com neighborhoods because they're very geographical. And a gentleman by the name of Mike Spastoff posted on nextdoor.com the proposal of the project. And, some people are for it, some people are against it, but what I found is that most people are kind of on the fence, with at least 3 people, including me, complaining about Starbucks being a bigger problem. But that's not the perfect copy. If you sign up to nextdoor.com, you can read it. But just wanted to give you that as some real active community input from members, from stakeholders in the community on this very issue. I think you'll find it most interesting in formulating your opinions about this project.
Thank you.
I want to give a clearer answer than I did to your question about why I didn't initially contact Mr. Perunian. To be, honest, I felt that it would be better coming from someone who was a personal acquaintance than from me, a stranger. And so that's why I contacted Ray Pollock, who I have a good relationship with through other projects I've done at VFW. And I said, would you mind, since I know you both are in Rotary, would you mention this to him and let him know that this is going on? So it wasn't an effort on my part to avoid, but you understand that I felt that coming from someone who is another Rotarian and had a vigorous relationship.
Yeah, Linda, it just, on the surface, for whatever reason it is just, would be more appropriate to go to Jake, the number 1 person who'd be affected the most, to go to him first. Really. I understand.
I went to the neighborhood council first, because that was the first move I made.
It really should have gone to Jake, because, here's an upstanding businessman that has done so much for that business center and that whole street. I mean, and those parking spaces are very critical to that corner, because parking spaces are premium. It's always been a problem on that street.
Yeah, that is important.
And to put a plaza there that would in any way interrupt traffic or interrupt, we've got the foot traffic there, we've got the plaza, we've got the Veterans Triangle is a beautiful meeting place. People sit there all the time. So it's kind of redundant, you're talking about a redundant term, but it's almost redundant to have another area where you've already got a new place to meet.
Well,
I mean, I'm trying to get my brain wrapped around this, because I did a lot of research on this. I'm just trying to understand how much more benefit could it be than we already have. I mean, there's cities and there's areas in Los Angeles that are very high density that could really benefit from a plaza. We've got the amenities, we've got the benches, we've got the frills, we've got the park, we've got it all. We've got the bid that's even working on a central, location, and they've got more coming in the center of White Oak and Chatsworth. So I'm not sure how that would enhance, because we've got so much already. There's other communities who need this more, who really have the density, who have no place to meet.
Well,
we do.
Yeah. To address your question about the parking, when I spoke with Mitch Englander's office and asked them, is there anything that can be done about the parking, about the lot, because that would result in the loss of those 4 parking spaces directly in front of Menchie's. They said that they had a plan that would relocate those 4 parking spaces, 3 of them. So there would be a net loss of 1 parking space. 3 parking spaces would be relocated nearby to Salsa Street. So that is the reply that I got from Councilmember Englander's office.
I'd like to give Jake the opportunity to speak, and I'll take your comment after Jake's able
Okay,
to.
that's fine.
No, thank you, Jake. And just by way of introduction, Jake's the property owner at where the Menchie's is located, and has been heavily involved with the Veterans Triangle Park, and I think donor of the statue that's there, and huge supporter, so.
Does he own just Menchie's building or the whole?
No, he owns the.
No, I own Royal Center, right next to Menchie's.
Okay,
From
with
starting
the
from
Taylor.
grocery to all the way to
Kingsbury.
Japanese restaurant, sushi place.
Arigato.
Arigato. From Menchie's to Arigato, it belongs to us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the only thing that I concern, which I try to advise this to everybody, I said, look, this is not the community or me or Jake's project or Linda's project. This is, we're not coming face to face. What we want to do in here, one side wants to beautify the place. The other side is a business owner, businessman for 40 years in the same area, heavily involved in with the Triangle Park, which my heart is in it. As of today, I sold most of the bricks to keep that triangle going. And plus that donation, I'm not talking about the donation. When I involved in the property, that Memorial Park, when they asked me, this goes back to almost 20 years. I said, sure, definitely. When they showed me the pictures and everything, I was the first one. I said, you know what? That boy is mine. They asked me the question, why you're saying that boy is yours? I said, look, I did not born in this country. I came to this country with $400, single $100 in my pocket. So I worked myself up, and I did this. So when the community asked me something, which that was Greg Smith, that was then Hal Brunson's chief executive officer, and then Ford, Mrs. Ford, involved in it, before the Rotary took over this project. And the both of them were shocked. They said, wow. I said, yeah. And they showed me the picture of the boy for very little, midget. I said, no. If we're going to do something, let's do something good for the Granada youth. They said, well, Jake, the other one is too expensive. I said, listen to me, it's not $1 million. We're not talking about the $1 million. Whatever we're going to do it, I'm sure I can do something. I will do it. When I say I do it, I will do it for my veterans. Because of the veterans, I'm in this country. All right? So, long story short, they got it. They brought me the bid, and they said, Jake, this is going to cost you that much. I wrote the check, I handed it out to Carl Mellon. At the time, he turned it over to Rotary Club. So, it was good. Then they said, well, Jake, we're going to sell some bricks. I said, no problem. I got 56,000 customers coming into my store. And we can sell, I can sell, I'm a salesman. I can sell this thing. So I sold it. I sold. And the other day, Carl Mellon told me that, you know, Jake, we're going to put your name in there. If they want to buy a brick, they better go to Ken Cleaners to buy bricks. You know. And they made me honorary member of Rotary Club because of that. So I joined the Rotary Club. And I joined always, day one, I joined the Granada Chamber of Commerce. Of course, because of my buildings on between Salsa and White Oak, I have buildings on White Oak too. I have shareholder for the beats. And I get about $4,000 I pay every year extra on my tax to keep the Chatsworth Street in good shape. It's just like I treat that street like my street, my own, nobody else's. After we fixed that park, I saw that building was across the street from the park was on sale, for sale. I've been passing by, literally I pass by every day. Like a little sign for sale. I didn't know. The store was dirty. I can see the rats were going on because my property was next to it. I said, how am I going to clean this? How am I going to clean this? So we did this beautiful park in here. Look at this building. So I called the number. It happens to belongs to the bank. So I called them. I said, you know what? You owned it. I will take it over. What are you going to do with the park? I mean, with the building. I said, well, you will see what I do. If you approve it, I'll do it. We got it. I start drawing the pictures and what I was going to do. I start cleaning up. Again, it's like it is my property, but not the city street. I have 2 palm trees. It doesn't belong to me. I find out later it belongs to the city. However, I'm taking care of it. I call the guys and come on over and pay $300. Trim this. I cannot wait until city comes in and trim these trees. I cannot remove it. I cannot do it. It's beautiful. It's been there. So I've been starting to clean up the front, clean up the flowers and everything. So now I pass by, I'm really proud. I said, I did something here, I did something in here. until this thing came attention to me by Carl Mem, who is my optometrist. And he emailed me one day. He says, Jake, I was at some council meeting, something is going on. Do you know anything about it? I said, hell no, what's going on? Well, they want to turn off close that triangle, right turn hand to Chatsworth Street. I said, hell no, you can't. After I got into that much of that and cleaning up that corner, and as a business owner, I would ask every one of you, as a businessman, I would ask every one of you, you invest in something. What would you invest? Because of the visibility. Okay. If somebody says that, okay, you know what, this is good, but I'm going to close this area right there, let the cars goes here, it's going to look beautiful. Well, what happened? Your street is closed, blocked off. Heck, what am I going to do now? My business is there, my the tenant is there. You kill the tenant who has signed up for 20 years of lease with me, just because of street is going by. And now I'm entitled of answering them. I'm losing money. I'm losing my business because it's going to be worthless, regardless if the Mench's comes here or Mench's goes. I was lucky enough. Mench is interested in to get that corner. Very lucky. And everybody was very happy. Everybody said, look at this building, look what's happening. Mench's is here, Mench's is there. All of a sudden, Mench's boomed up over there. I'm glad. It's good. That's a partnership. It's Mench's with my property. Okay. We got that one too. We fixed it. We put the Mench's. We put everybody else. Then I start reading your blog, and it says, safety for the children. I raised 3 children in the area. Everybody got colleges, and they're all college graduates, and the last one is in Europe right now. He's studying conducting. Okay, that's fine too. I said, safety of the children, I wouldn't let my children play in that park at all. First of all, that park is Memorial Park. We have special, I have at least special feeling about that park. And secondly, right in the middle of the street having a park, it's not safe for anybody, regarding if we close that section or not. Reason? If we study how much traffic follows the right turn angle, and how much traffic follows the Salsa and Chatsworth, and especially the other day when they called me, they said, Jake, did you hear what happened? I said, what happened? I hold my heart, I rush over. I said, what happened in here? Well, nothing happened to the boy. I said, that's okay. What happened? The guy was coming from the Salsa, turning left on Chatsworth, got through the park, knocked down the 3 trees, continue on Chatsworth Street. All of a sudden, one of my customers jumps from the Starbucks, ran, and they put the guy. I said, oh, my Lord, if my kid was there, it was done. Who was going to answer? The city? Oh, I'm sorry, this happened. We didn't think of it. No. This is not a park. We have beautiful parks out there, this and that, but this is not going to be it. The second issue is that. That's what I didn't want to involve in. I involved in heavily now. Since this came up to me, I said, you know what? I don't see anything. I went to the Mitch Englander's office. They said, Jake, it's the property owner.